Protests in 40-plus U.S. cities demand de-escalation as poll shows 58% fear nuclear war. Changing climate claims railways, houses, and beaches in California. Hundreds gather in New York to protest death of Mahsa Amini. Pakistan rejects Biden's Nukes remarks, summons U.S. envoy. RSS BJP-inspired extremists install Hindu deity in a mosque. Istanbul to host largest international Halal Expo in November. From Chicago studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Samana Siddiqui. Our top story tonight. A new poll shows Americans' fear of nuclear war has grown steadily since Russia invaded Ukraine in February. The most recent polling released by Reuters Ipsos Monday showed 58% of Americans fear the U.S. is headed toward nuclear war. Anti-nuclear campaigners have called on federal lawmakers to take action to mitigate those fears. They want to ensure the U.S. is doing all it can to de-escalate tensions with other nuclear powers. Anti-war groups including Peace Action and Roots Action organized picket lines at the offices of U.S. senators and representatives in more than 40 cities across 20 states. They called on lawmakers to push for a ceasefire in Ukraine and to revive anti-nuclear treaties from which the U.S. had exited in recent years. Catastrophic erosion worsened by climate change can be seen happening in real time along one of the world's most scenic railroad lines. In California, the sea there is swallowing homes, tracks, and the state's beaches. Powerful waves from the Pacific have washed over the rails where the Pacific Surfliner runs. Until recently, that ferried sightseers through the coastal landscapes of Southern California. The railway was once cushioned by hundreds of feet of golden sand, but violent southern swells have washed that sand away. With the beach gone, nothing remained to protect the rails from the fury of Tropical Storm K as it lashed the coast in September. The track, which carries over 8 million passengers annually between San Diego and San Luis Obispo, is now closed for emergency work. Nearby residents of the luxury Cypress Shore settlement, a hillside enclave of about 100 plush villas, are anxious about their homes sliding toward the sea. The cliffside parking lot is collapsing, and 2 villas with cracked walls are now officially uninhabitable. Encroaching waters and coastal erosion are a problem for the entire state. By 2050, experts say between $8 and $10 billion in infrastructure could be underwater in California. Sadiq long endured 9 years of being strip-searched at airports and arrested when visiting his homeland of Turkey. He was banned from 2 Persian Gulf states and fired from a trucking company. This was because he was placed on a list of suspected terrorists banned from air travel in the United States. Long, a veteran and Muslim convert, filed a lawsuit in federal court in Alexandria, Virginia. But just as the lawsuit started moving forward in 2019, the government informed Long that he had been removed from the Watchlist. Advocates say such a reversal is part of a government pattern to evade scrutiny of its terrorist screening database. The FBI maintained list of known or suspected terrorists subjects people to heightened security screening at borders. Its smaller no-fly list comprises names of people barred from U.S. airspace. Hundreds of thousands of people have been placed on the lists since the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks. Civil liberties groups for years have said methods used to determine who is placed on the 2 lists is unconstitutional. Hundreds of protesters gathered at Washington Square Park in New York City on Saturday to show solidarity for Mahsa Amini. The 22-year-old Iranian woman died in police custody on September 13th in the capital, Tehran. Protesters carried banners saying, "Women, life, freedom, no justice, no peace," in English and sang songs in Persian. Amini died after being detained by Iran's morality police for an alleged violation of the dress code. The cause of her death remains unknown as an official probe has yet to be concluded. Major Iranian cities have witnessed angry demonstrations in recent weeks and clashes between protesters and policemen. Legislation unveiled on Thursday by 2 U.S. House progressives would ban private insurers from labeling themselves as Medicare. The The Save Medicare Act would change the name of Medicare Advantage to Alternative Private Health Plan. This will make clear such coverage is offered by for-profit companies. The effort aims to curb misleading marketing practices for-profit health giants have used to expand their reach. The legislation was introduced by Democratic Representatives Mark Pocan of Wisconsin and Ro Khanna of California. Khanna said their legislation will allow lawmakers to focus on strengthening and expanding real Medicare. Chandru Acharya, who is in the U.S. Department of Homeland Security's Faith-Based Religious Council, is associated with a Hindu supremacist group in India, Middle East Eye reports. Acharya was appointed by the DHS in late September to advise the U.S. government on domestic issues. He is a director of the Hindu Swayam Sevak Sangh, HSS USA, a group that has repeatedly defended the policies of India's right-wing Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The HSS claims to be apolitical and said it acts as a vessel for celebrating Hindu cultural and religious values. Acharya denied any affiliation between HSS USA and the RSS, the extreme right-wing arm of India's ruling Bharatiya Janata Party. The organization is made up of hundreds of branches in nearly 40 countries. The DHS's 25-member Faith-Based Security Council includes leaders from several faiths. It was set up to provide advice to the Secretary on matters related to protecting houses of worship, preparedness, and enhanced coordination with the faith community. Pakistan rejects Biden's Nukes remarks. Details after the break, so stay tuned. And we'll be right back after these messages.
A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to start boosting your retirement savings today.
I am what hunger looks like in America.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes.
Despite the development of a COVID-19 vaccine, millions around the world will not have access. We need a vaccine that's free and available to everyone, everywhere. It's time for a people's vaccine.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
We are Justice for All. Headquartered in the heart of downtown Chicago, Justice for All is a global humanitarian initiative dedicated to raising awareness for human rights concerns impacting vulnerable minority groups. Our diverse team of staff and volunteers, led by Imam Malik Mujahid, work tirelessly to help Justice for All achieve their goals. We promote policies that protect religious freedom, address the root causes of mass displacement, and recognize the plight of refugees and forced migrants. Together, we can continue to stand up for justice. Justice for all.
To stop this genocide, we need your help.
Welcome back. Islamabad on Saturday rejected President Joe Biden's remarks on Pakistan's nuclear weapons and summoned the U.S. ambassador for an official démarche. Biden, speaking at a Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee reception Thursday, said Pakistan may be one of the most dangerous countries in the world. He said that's because Pakistan has nuclear weapons without cohesion. Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari said he was surprised by Biden's statement. Zardari said the U.S. should be more concerned about India's nuclear weapons, citing the accidental firing of a supersonic missile into Pakistan on March 9th. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif tweeted that Pakistan is a responsible nuclear state, and we are proud that our nuclear assets have the best safeguards. Edmonton, Canada author Rahma Muhammad was seeking a publisher to release her third book and reach a much larger audience. Muhammad has successfully self-published 2 children's books. While she was searching for agents and publishers online, an editor from HarperCollins found her at an event for Black authors. This was at the height of the Black Lives Matter movement in June 2020. Within a month, the publishing house offered Muhammad a 2-book deal. The first is Dear Black Child, released on September 27th and available online and in stores across Canada and the United States. She published Muhima's Quest in 2017, inspired and written for her daughter. A year later, the 40-year-old Somali immigrant published A Little Brother for Sale, inspired by the sibling rivalry between her kids. Her next book, Dear Muslim Child, is set to release in Ramadan 2024 under HarperCollins. Turkey's capital, Istanbul, will host the world's largest halal expositions next month. The 9th Organization of Islamic Cooperation Halal Expo and the 8th World Halal Summit will take place November 24th to 27th, Yeni Shafak Daily reports. The World Halal Summit is organized by the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. It is held in collaboration with the Institute of Standards and Metrology of Islamic Countries and the Center for the Promotion of Islamic Trade. The exhibition is the most significant commercial cooperation platform in the halal industry. Organizers are aiming to make Turkey the central nation in the $4 trillion halal market. The OIC Halal Fair and the World Halal Summit aim to attract the sector's 2 billion customers to Turkey. That includes the halal food, medicine, cosmetics, tourism, and finance sectors. Palestinian factions Fatah and Hamas have signed a deal in Algiers aimed at resolving 15 years of discord by holding elections within a year. The agreement signed Thursday comes after months of talks mediated by Algeria. It aims to end a rift between President Mahmoud Abbas's Fatah movement and Hamas that has split Palestinian governance in Gaza from the occupied West Bank. The discord between the two factions has hindered Palestinian ambitions of total independence from Israeli occupation. Senior Fatah official Azzam al-Ahmad vowed the agreement will be implemented and will not remain a dead letter. Hamas chief Ismail Haniyeh called it a day of joy in Palestine and Algeria and for those who love the Palestinian cause, but a day of sadness for the Zionist entity. About 100 Hindu extremists forcibly entered the Qutb Shahi Mosque in Hyderabad, India, Sunday morning. The mob installed an idol in the mosque and performed a puja or worship in the presence of police. The mosque's management committee alerted local police and Waqf board officials after noticing a small Hindu temple was built overnight in the mosque premises. Police did not stop the extremists from worshipping, nor did they ask them to remove the deity. Local media reported police saying ownership of the land was yet to be clarified. A Muslim student at a French high school dormitory reported her hijab was thrown in the trash and Quran was torn, media reports said Saturday. France Info reports an unnamed Muslim student at the Jean Rostand High School in Caen reported the incident to school management. Headmaster Sébastien Duval-Rocher said he and his colleagues were shocked by the incident. He said the school is open-minded and denounced the unworthy, intolerable, legally reprehensible act. France Info said neither the student nor her family wanted to file a complaint against the perpetrator. However, the prosecutor's office acted on their behalf through the school's management. Coming up next after the break is our in-depth analysis segment, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back after these messages.
A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to start boosting your retirement savings today.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Dad, they took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3.
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
What was it like when you started this network out, when you started Sound Vision those many years ago?
You know, after 9/11, one lady called me and she says, what is your channel which I can watch? And I say, I'm sorry, we don't have a channel. And you know what she said? She said, then how America will know about you?
SubhanAllah. Anything you want to say to the people who are watching? We had one sister who messaged that she grew up on Sound Vision. What do you say to the people who have been long supporters?
Thank you. Thank you. It is because of you we are able to do all of that. So the generation of Adam's world, you need to take it over for the next generation. And that's my invitation to you. So keep telling everybody where to watch. They can watch it on Galaxy 19 satellite, Amazon Fire TV, Apple TV, or easy thing, muslimnetwork.tv, or our YouTube channel, or our Facebook channel. And with your help, inshallah, ladies, the one who called me, what channel should I watch Muslims on? Answer is here and now.
Welcome back. It's time for our in-depth analysis segment. Let's watch.
And now we move to news that just broke today. Many of you have heard of it, the passing of Dr. Yusuf Al-Qardawi in Qatar. To discuss his life, his passing, we would like to bring on our special guest, Dr. Zulfiqar Ali Shah. Many of you know is the Executive Director and Secretary General of the Fiqh Council of North America, and he's the Director of Religious Affairs of the Islamic Society of Milwaukee. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Shah. How are you?
Wa alaikum assalam, my brother. How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, I'm doing well. Thank you so much for joining us. Jazakallah khairan. So, as I mentioned, we want this to be educational for our viewers. Many of them may have already known about Dr. Qardawi and his life. Many may not know about his life and his work. So we just want to get some reflections from you and learn a little bit about his life story and why his life was significant to so many people around the world. So first, can you just give us a little recap of his life story, not a detailed biography, but just an overview of where he came from and generally what he did and where he ended up?
Sure. Now, when it comes to the Islamic scholarship, Shaykh Al-Qardawi was the jurist of this century, the faqih of this ummah, the most renowned Muslim scholar of our time, and also a highly renowned intellectual and a Muslim philosopher. He was born in the Nile Delta of Egypt in 1926, and he got his basic education from Al-Azhar Sharif, the bachelor's as well as master's, as well as his PhD. And then he moved to Qatar in 1961 and stayed most of his life in Qatar and Algeria, but mostly in Qatar. He went back to Egypt when there was a sort of revolution and the Ikhwan's government came, but then he was expelled, or you can say he was not allowed to live in Egypt afterwards. And then he came back and he died in Doha. So Sheikh Al-Qardawi is a known scholar, not only in Egypt, but all over the Islamic world. He established many Islamic organizations, many Islamic institutions. He was a prolific writer who wrote over 200 books. He was the founder of the Iftah Council in Europe, European Council for Iftah and Research. And he was also the founding president and founding member of Muslim Scholars International Union in the world. So Sheikh Al-Qardawi was the most influential Muslim scholar, jurist, and intellectual in our century.
Dr. Shah, tell me more about the scholarship aspect of it. What would you say were his main areas of focus, in terms of areas that he elucidated in his scholarship, things that had some impact on the world as we see it? Any areas of focus that you want to highlight?
Actually, he was a jurist. A jurist means that he was a faqih. Now, among the fuqaha, he was known to reconcile the reason with revelation. As you can understand that some of the fuqaha, they take the Islamic fiqh literally, and some of them, they try to reconcile it with contemporary idiom, contemporary problems, and the issues which are being faced by the ummah, say, for example, in the West, as well as in the Muslim world. So he was among the scholars who was a mujtahid of his time. He will not only accept, literally at the meanings and the whys of those texts, and in the light of objectives of Islamic Sharia or objectives of Islamic religion, he will be happy to look at those texts and reinterpret them and try to relate them and make them relevant to the contemporary issues and the modern thought patterns.
Gotcha. So, Dr. Shah, let me ask you about this. So, in recent years during the Arab Spring, I think he was known for speaking up about that, sharing perspective on that. I think he was also known for speaking up against some of the violent extremist groups that started operating, in the years after the Arab Spring, after that collapse. Can you tell us about his thoughts on the past 10, 20 years of things that we've experienced in the Muslim Ummah and also around the world?
Actually, he was a Muslim activist from the beginning of his life. He was among the founding members, or at least the most influential intellectuals in what we call Ikhwan al-Muslimin, or the Islamic movement in Egypt and all around the world. He was imprisoned by King Farouk when he was a young man. He was 3 times imprisoned by Jamal Abdul Nasir, and then he was also imprisoned during the time of Hosni Mubarak. And until he left Egypt, he was under the surveillance of the government, because he always spoke and he always, stood for the truth. At the same time, he was the one who would like to see the Muslim world make a transition towards democratic systems, and especially based upon Islamic principles. He was a man who will always oppose the tyrant, who will always oppose or speak against the oppressors, and he would stand for the oppressed all over the world. That was the reason that the Egyptian government did not like him, or some of the anti-Islamic movements or ideological movements did not subscribe to his ideas, and actually they called him sometime terrorist, sometime extremist, and sometime they labeled him with different kinds of labels. But he was a man of his principles, who will always stand by the oppressed and who will always speak the truth. And that is the reason that when the Arabic Spring took place, and he spoke in Maidan al-Tahrir, or Tahrir Square, where he called upon the Egyptian Muslims as well as the Coptics, both Muslims and Christians, to stand up for democracy, for human rights, for human equality, and stand against the tyranny of the existing president, which was Hosni Mubarak at that time. Actually, he called him the Pharaoh of Egypt, which means that he was calling people to demand their rights and to work for democracy and to work for freedom of religion, freedom of expression, as well as the political freedom. So he was a known, I will call him a known mujahid who will not care about the punishment, who will not care about the opposition, who will always say the truth wherever the truth was. And even if he had to pay with his life, he would do so.
Now, Dr. Shah, did you ever meet Dr. Al-Qardawi? And if so, can you tell us about that experience?
Sure. My encounter with Dr. Qardawi happened in the International Islamic University. I was a student, and my teacher, Dr. Hussein Hamid Hassan, and Dr. Hassan Shafi, they were his close friends and his classmates. So they requested him to become the board of trustees, member of the board of trustees of the International Islamic University, which he accepted, and that he used to come to our university every year for the meeting of the board of trustees. So I met with him, I learned from him in Islamabad. And then when I was part of SANA, Sharia Scholars Association of North America, we invited him, and he came to America and participated in our conference. And I also met with him and saw him in Istanbul and a number of other areas. So I had tremendous respect for him, and I have learned a great deal from him and many of his colleagues.
Dr. Shah, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your perspective and your experiences. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. And we look forward to having you back on to discuss more important topics in the future, God willing. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, my brother. Jazakallah khair for having me.
Wayak, wayak. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
And we'll toss it back to you now, Samana.
Thank you. That's all from our Chicago studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can find previous episodes and more on our YouTube or Facebook. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Salam and good night.